It's Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025, and I'm tracking a strong cold front working its way through the Midwest that could bring some record low temperatures in the forecast over the next few days. This front works its way through the area later this evening and through tomorrow, where we could see those record lows in spots across the upper Midwest. And here's Thursday morning's low temperature forecast. Once that cold air settles in, we're talking frost conditions for parts of the upper Midwest, including northeast Minnesota, parts of northern Wisconsin, and even into the UP of Michigan. Notice how temperatures get close to freezing for International Falls. Northeast Minnesota has a really good shot at hitting 32 degrees. Meanwhile, Duluth, 36 degrees could be close to your record low, if not breaking it, as well as Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And then for Green Bay, 39 degrees will be close to the record low of 38. And here's some of those record lows. We could break the record potentially in Duluth. Right now the forecast is to tie it, as well as Wausau. But Green Bay just 1 degree off that record high in the forecast. Our forecast is 39. The record is 38. And for Grand Portage, it's just about a tie for Grand Portage, but you could see the records break there. All of northeast Minnesota is expected to be in the 30s. Here's a look at future radar going into the next several hours here. Notice tonight that white color sneaking into northeast Minnesota. That is some snowflake action in the forecast early tomorrow morning. If you live in that area, you're going to have to wake up pretty early to see it, but there is potential to get some snow in northern Minnesota, which is pretty unusual for this time of the year. And then we look at Thursday afternoon. Notice some rain coming in into northwest Minnesota. That is a secondary shot of cold air that will reinforce the chilly stuff going into the weekend. And this is the forecast heading into the weekend here. This is the long-range American model, and you can see the cool air settling in Saturday morning and Sunday morning, where once again we could see those temperatures back into the 30s and several locations most likely getting close to record lows once again early Sunday morning. So take a look at these forecast lows. Not quite as cold as what we'll see tomorrow, but most locations should be above the record lows because there was a pretty good cold spell on September 7th. This would be the 7th, a long time ago. So we probably won't break records in this area, but there may be some that get pretty close. Otherwise, another chilly day across the region, definitely feeling more like the end of fall than the end of summer around here in the upper Midwest. So if you're not a fan of the cold in the upper Midwest, we will see a pattern change on the way, so don't worry about that. Temperatures will most likely go back above average, and we could even see some 70s and 80s across parts of the northern plains going into mid-September. Now we have a lot going on in the tropics, but before we talk about that, I want to mention our new weather app, StormChance. StormChance is an impact-based weather app where we'll be focusing on major weather events from blizzards to hurricanes to severe weather and forecasts for your local area. We'll have hyperlocal video updates and weather data that covers the entire country and even the globe. If you have any questions on this app, leave a comment below or reach out through our website. Now we head over to the Pacific, closer to Hawaii, where we find Hurricane Kiko. Kiko is now a major hurricane heading off to the northwest and most likely will become a Category 4 storm. This has significance because it could hold together as a hurricane before potentially impacting Hawaii. If it does make landfall in Hawaii, this would be the first storm in over 30 years to do so. So we'll be tracking this storm closely as we head over the next several days. And here's a look at the spaghetti plots as that storm gets close to Hawaii. Notice how they're much more focused on the storm hitting Hawaii, but it all depends on, does it hold the strength together to remain a hurricane? Right now the models are more indicative of the storm becoming a tropical storm, but there's still a chance it could potentially be a hurricane, so this is now something we have to watch very closely for the island chain. And here's the wind gust forecast. The storm will most likely hold together a good portion of those winds now, getting closer to the islands, but it most likely will drop down to tropical storm strength. If it does stay hurricane strength, it will most likely be a weak Category 1 storm. We are also tracking Hurricane Lorena as it continues its trek off to the northwest and then eventually the northeast. This storm will be most likely a big-time rain producer, not so much in terms of wind damage, but certainly rain as it moves off to the north and then the east towards the southern plains. And even through parts of Mexico, there could be some flooding, but because it's not reaching a Category 2, 3, or 4 strength, it's most likely not going to do too much damage aside from the heavy rains. And you can see that rainfall forecast over the next several days. Some pretty heavy rain for parts of Mexico, but certainly plenty for the southern plains and New Mexico, so something we'll have to keep a close eye on over the next several days. Now we head over to the Atlantic, where we do have an 80% chance of a storm developing over the next few days. And this storm will be the next storm on the list here, named Gabrielle. So over the next several days, we will be watching for the development of Gabrielle. And then, of course, there could be more activity with more waves coming in off of Africa. So definitely leave a comment below on which storm you think will be the worst of the season. I have several of my own I think will be the worst, but it would be interesting to see which one you think could be the most destructive. And here's that wind gust forecast taking Gabrielle, will most likely be Gabrielle, off to the west and potentially making a run at the east coast now. This has changed from model runs of the past, so this is somewhat concerning as we have seen a big shift now of the models getting this storm closer to the east coast. We'll be keeping a very close eye on the track of this storm once it develops and then heads westward, but there's still some uncertainty. The storm hasn't developed yet, so it could still take it into the Gulf or easily out to sea, but right now the shift has been closer to the east coast, so this has now become a little more concerning. So looking ahead, we'll be tracking Gabrielle as it most likely forms into a tropical storm and then eventually a hurricane. We'll also be tracking Kiko and Lorena in the Pacific, the Midwest cold, where we could see some record lows, and then another chance of some flooding across the southern plains that could even include some flash flooding. So I'll have updates on all these things over the next several days.